Welcome to Shays Spiritual Insights, everyone. So glad to see you all. Well, Paula will be back. And I don't really have a lot to say other than the energies. Every time I just think it's, they can't come in any faster, they do. And of course, as they do, those who are not so spiritually oriented in the world are affected usually in a way that's they don't know what to do with the energies. They find themselves reacting to things rather than flowing with them. So I don't have a lot to say. I guess we can go ahead and open it up and just, we're going to start with Susan because we haven't seen you in a while. And it's so wonderful you could join us.
I'm going to wait for a bit.
Okay, that's fine.
I would like to hear other people first, so I can reflect on other people's thoughts.
All right. Well, let us start with, how about Lisa?
I don't have any questions tonight.
Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, kind of like what you were saying earlier, Jeff. It's like the energy just keeps coming in and shifting, and it's intense. Definitely a big shift after that last 21 days on the 2022. What happened after or during that day, and then has continued to unfold. And I guess I do have something to share. Kind of what you and I had discussed about, you talking about things that were in the queue for me that were gonna, waiting for the time for things to start to unfold. That's happening now.
Awesome.
And really big stuff. It's very exciting. I don't have details to share other than, I don't even know how to put it into words, but I'm in a really big, let's just say really big growth process right now.
And it's going to be flowing for a while and increasing, believe it or not. Soon is hard to tell looking at it, is that it can be, I'm thinking within a couple, I see from your point of view, going up and up, and then it's going to step up some more here in, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, could be sooner, because it just all depends on how things unfold. But wow, well, good.
So yeah, exciting.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and one of the things on this energy, and I know you've all heard this before, the image that the universe and the divine keep showing me is that as the energies pour in like this, it's like a balloon going upward. And for the balloon to go upward, the ballast has to come off. And the ballast, of course, is our old beliefs, discordant attachments, just discordant energies, emotional baggage. That's what we kind of lovingly call the whole group of them. And as they get released, a lot of times it gets released and falls away, and that's great. Or sometimes a part of our low self, our subconscious, holds on to a piece of it as it's being released, and then it gets processed through our energy field. And as that happens, of course, we can experience the emotions and the energies of it, and that has to do with the energetic virus videos we did. But it also, because the energies are accelerating coming in, so are the stuff being released. So you may notice that happening in your life. I'm certainly seeing it happening in the world. So just the events unfolding. But the light always prevails. That's the beauty of it. All right, I'm going to go to Marcy. Sometimes she ends up being last, and I don't want her to be last today. So anything to share, Marcy?
Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, let's see. Yeah, it seems like maybe it's a little easier for the baggage to drop off now. It's a little less intense emotionally, even though it feels not that good. It's a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
When you were talking about the viruses, the energetic viruses, that's been going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It seems almost like you're clearing collectively. Not that none of it's really personal anyway, right? But but it's some of what I thought was that. I'm kind of wondering now because we've got this giant mango tree in the yard and my eyes keep puffing up. And I kept thinking it was that energetic virus type of thing going on. And now I'm kind of wondering if maybe it's actually this tree.
It could be.
Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But
you know, I mean, it's all kind of interwoven stuff, but you know, and then it's like, nah, you know, it's just your other aspects are just wanting you to move somewhere else, you know, and then it's like, no, it's getting close to time to move from this spot. So I don't know. A little confusion there, I guess, is what's going on.
Yeah, and you talk about the collective. That is one of the things that happens. And my friend Dale, who doesn't mind my mentioning his name, so I can do so with his permission, he called me up. We talked about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, and it was somewhere around the time of the energetic virus video that we talked about that, because it's been going on longer for some people than others, but it's been really noticeable in the last month and a half or so now. But he says, I've been noticing these heavier, you know, I'm going to call them discordant. That's kind of a catch-all word for the kind of energy, you know, coming toward him. And I said, so what do you think it is? And he says, well, I think it's the stuff from the collective, just like you talked about, Marcy, coming toward him to be dissolved, to be brought in, you know, to be brought into the light. And that is part of what we do as light workers. That's part of, if sometimes that energy will find its way to us because it needs to be dissipated. It needs to be dissolved. And we are the channels of light, and the light dissolves the darkness. So yes, a lot of what you may see has nothing to do with you personally. It just that you're, as a servant of humanity, we can end up being the vehicles to dissolve the light.
Yeah, I can tell, you know, with certain people, I mean, everything can be just fine. And then that certain person will walk by in a certain mood and it'll be, you know, instant, feeling like you're coming down with something. And then you have to catch your awareness and then realize, you know, oh, that's what that was, you know, and then it'll dissipate. But, you know, unless you're alert all the time, you know, the stuff will kind of sneak in and catch you off guard. And I don't know.
It does. And sometimes what happens too is our low self-beliefs, you know, the limiting beliefs and things, because they're part of us, they have the keys to us, you might so to say. And they can open us up to some of these energies, even though we've done what we need to do, but not to worry about it. Just, you know, fill the bubble with light. Once you're aware of it, you can dissipate it. The light will just, well, you can let it go if you need to, you know, cut the ACA cord, but you'll be fine. But you're right. Our low self can open us up to that, and just being around it too can be fatiguing. And if you read the scriptures, you read the scriptures. I mean, Jesus, it says here, and I've gone back and watched, after a day of being with some of the people, especially the Pharisees were particularly negatively intense, it would fatigue him. He needed to get some rest to recharge. So, I mean, that's a spiritual master there, and he still needed to get recharged. Go ahead. Yeah,
it's just, I mean, there's only a little bit of interaction that can go on with other people, and then I've got to go back. I've got to just be by myself again. I even had my son surprise me, came like 2 or 3 days after Doug had been home, and so, you know, I'd had 4 months all by myself, and then all of a sudden, you know, and it was really interesting to watch because I could see. I think my son and I are pretty similar in a lot of ways, and I could see how the energy was affecting him the same way. And it was just like, okay, we just got to go lay down now. You know, that's enough. We can't take any more. It's debilitating. It really is. It's to the point where there's not a lot of functioning going on.
And you're in a particular phase right now. I don't even know what to call it. And I'm going to say it's particular or peculiar in a good way to Hawaii because of the energies, and it was part of what we talked about, the reasons you came there, that things are going to
Yeah.
happen there, and just because of the kinds of energies, the Elohim energies coming in there, the creative energies, the earthly version in levels, as well as the spiritual ones coming in, really avail you to opportunities of growth that for you wouldn't necessarily happen at the same speed, or to the level, to the amount that you're having in such a short period, being there in Hawaii. So although
Yeah.
it can be a bit challenging, it's also a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, with him being here, he left last night, and it's almost like the whole thing was a dream now, instantly. You know, the next morning it's like, that was a dream. It literally has that feeling to it, like there's not a reality feeling anymore to stuff.
Well, it's because
kinda tricky.
your energies, I'm watching as they come in, they're flowing, you're clearing, and you're in a constant state of connection, reconnection, and then of course every time we make new connections, get rid of old ones and form new ones. It's like a constant integration process. So it's like water, flowing into a bowl. If there was any of the old water, if it was colored, as the new fresh water comes in, all that, it'll all be gone, and all there is the new water. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I know you probably tell me what you do every time. You won't like this, but just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is what your higher guidance and the divine for you. You're flowing with it, and there's going to come a point where you're going to be complete with this. I don't want to call it phase, this particular. Yeah, I'm going to call it a phase of the work that you're doing, and then you're going to move on. And I think you're going to get some direction as to what that's going to mean to you, whether that means moving, or within on the island, or moving back to the mainland. I don't know, but that time will come, and you'll have some choices before you. And
is there any, like this year, next year, 10 years, anything like that you can see?
oh, I'm going to say anywhere as early as 6 months, but that's on the really early end, and probably closer to a little over a year to 18 months. But it could be before then, because there's some choices coming up for you, depending on how you choose to do things at the inner level and in the higher levels of your being. Depends on how soon things will happen because of the way things unfold.
Okay. It doesn't feel like there are a lot of choices on this level. So some of it's beyond what I'm conscious of.
I'm going to call it the non-conscious level, but
Okay.
But I can tell you that if you at the conscious level suddenly, you made a commitment to set an intention for something, that would have an effect pretty immediately on the inner level. I mean, things are pretty multiplicative there because of the kinds of energies coming in. So if you were to do that, it would change how the unfoldment's happening for you. But I think it looks to me like your inner being and your high self and your guides are pretty, I'm going to say, content and pleased with how things are flowing, although it can be a bit unusual from time to time for you.
Yeah.
Let's call it that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a
All
good
right.
word. That's a good word. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Hi, everybody. I love all you guys so much.
I'm glad everyone's here. Franny showed up too. And I'm going to go to Pat next, because she sent a email to me about a person who talks about energetic viruses, of the energies of that sort. So would you like to talk about that, Pat, or do you have anything that you want to ask as well?
Well, I feel it's more up your alley, sense that you have turned us on to the energetic viruses. And what I find with myself is once something that's tangible to me happens, then other things start happening that go along with that. So, and maybe before I ask you if you would mind going into that a little bit, to whatever degree you'd like to, I'd like to share John's dream with everybody, because as I told you, I felt that it was really applicable to everyone.
Well, go ahead.
And he just had this on March 1st. So he said, and it's not very long. And then afterwards, you had explained something about Shiva. And I don't know if you said Vatsava or if you said the Buddha, but I didn't have time to write it down and you were busy and I wasn't. So anyway, I'd like to hear that. So we were with a group of people and there were a group of Native American people in the field right next to the field that we were in. And we were doing ceremony in our little group and they were also doing ceremony in their little group. And at times we went into the area they were in and we all did ceremony together. So in between that part and the next part, there was this something that he heard, and it was the iodine is the blood of the earth through the seaweed of the ocean and the fish. And then the very last part of the dream is, and he and I kind of put this phrase together from the discussion we had, we were all creating a collective dream through our individual participation out in the field and through our own consciousness, which also goes along with this gentleman that I sent you the information about.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And what you're talking about, and I believe it's from Hindu, the Hindu religion, is Brahman sleeping. I think that's the one, sleeping on the lotus leaf on the collective unconscious, in which he dreams of a dream where all the dreamers are dreaming as well. And that, I think, is what I think that had to do with. There were some other details that came through in the moment, but they're not coming through now. But that's what that had to do with at the time, because you went into some extra detail when we were on the phone. So, and that's a pretty interesting dream that he had. Of course, fish have to do with spirituality and, spiritual food. So that's a wonderful dream.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And if anybody has anything at any time to write to me in email, what they get or whatever, we're always grateful for all of us to be sharing and informed. And thank you for what you're doing. Well,
thank you. And yeah, I mean, I always think always getting other perspectives is a great idea. You'd asked if I'd share a little bit about the energetic virus, and I already have it out there in the video, and many of you will have already probably seen it. And I've seen this for a long time with our friend Kay and Deborah. I've seen it for a long, long time, and others have it. But as this discordant energy of our emotional baggage comes up, especially as our frequency of our body raises along with it, our body becomes more and more sensitive to these energies to where it can react to them in a physical way as it would a bacteria or a virus. As a matter of fact, I was humorously teasing Deborah a little bit. I said, boy, I've had some energetic stuff come up and it felt just like something. And I looked at my aura and I said, no, there's no cold or anything else coming in. It just was the fuzzy stuff of that was associated with the baggage coming up and being released. And I ended up taking some vitamin C and it helped. And so I found that I'm seeing this more and more with people who have called up, friends that I have. And it's just interesting that as our vibrations go up and our sensitivities go up, how our bodies are reacting to it. And that's what that really had to do with it in short. I don't want to recap the whole video, but that's what it's about. And just to be aware of it, that if you're saying, there's nothing physically wrong, especially if you went and saw a doctor and they did tests and they say, nope, everything's fine, it very likely is energetic. So, especially with this group here, right here, you guys are very spiritual and very high vibration, and it wouldn't surprise me how much, these energies can really affect your body. So.
And that gentleman that I sent you the information on, how did you feel that fits in with what we're kind of discussing here and becoming aware of, that it's like a worldwide virus? And the word Wetiko that he uses, he had to come to that in all his journeys to figure that out, but that it's not a new thing, and that this energetic virus is affecting everybody, and that, as you've been explaining, we have to learn how to use our tools within to deal with it, because as he says in his many talks, it's not a negative or positive thing, but it can really play havoc on us as its own creation.
Well, it's definitely, you know, recognizing what it is. It's a lower vibration. If we can recognize that, then we can know what to do about it. And it's affecting the collective, and those who are not spiritually grounded, to put it in, I guess in counselor terms, can push their buttons, and people act out, and you see it in society, and you can see it driving down the road. People react to the energies, and it's important that we don't engage with that. We just, you know, respond in light and love, and that's and let it go, because this is something that they're dealing with, and we don't need to take it on, which I'm sure we all know that. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Aaron next. Aaron, how are you? And do you have anything to share, anything to ask, or both?
Probably both.
Okay.
I guess. So the other day I received an ACOM City, and that's a SIDDHI. So it's basically so that the receiver can experience an enlightened state. And during that, I felt basically like a sword in my heart. And then through my back, which is where just, you know, painful energies like have been releasing for quite a long time. And so I was just like, I felt so much light in me and around me, but I could see the sword, and then felt grief and probably like guilt. And, you know, I'm basically made a decision, and then it didn't turn out so well. So like that was all, I guess, hopefully getting released.
That's what it, yeah. And obviously processing through your energy field, and there's many layers to it with you. And we've talked about it before, and I want to get into it, you know, here, but yeah. And just know that the process you're going through is one that, and for like many of us, we've had challenges in other lifetimes, and just because of the work the culture was in society and our lives and our family and all the things that collectively affect us, we were unable to do it. And in this lifetime, it's challenging, extremely so, and emotional, but you're doing the things that you need to do. And it's going to be a rocky, or a little bit of a bumpy road, a rocky road here. But just know that you're having to do the things that are going to facilitate the highest good.
Okay. So
Yeah, and I know it's hard.
yeah, like are those releasing, or is it gonna take a long time? Like kind of, I mean, I feel pretty like calm. I didn't have a huge emotional response like usual, so that was nice. You know, I still get in my mind about stuff and making decisions, but I feel a lot calmer about it than even a few months ago.
Yeah, and it's accelerated in a good way. I mean, the good thing about it being released, and it gets released faster, is that more of it's gone. But the downside of that is that we also have more of the experience sometimes as it's being released, because part of our subconscious and low self and child self hold on to it. So my short answer to your question, and I don't want to sugarcoat things, is it's going to be a while, because this has been something that's been going on, as we've discussed before, for lifetimes. And you're, as with many women that I know, this is a lifetime that they've come to release, to let these patterns go. Let's just call it, you know, a phase or like part one of a book. Part one is chapters 1 through 11 or something. And all those chapters had a lot of commonality, and you're just letting you're letting all of part 1 or whatever you want to call that phase releasing. So you're doing it. Just be patient and just know, what I'm getting from your high self is that as you become more and more aware of the nature of the stuff as it's being released, although it can still affect you, it won't have the effect that it did in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm noticing that, like, I'm able to stay more centered and just like breathe and listen
Mm-hmm.
when things are being said to me. And yeah, and I don't engage with it as much as before. So
And that's a good thing, because, and just so you know, and I think sometimes, I mean, I think you already know this, but sometimes when we don't like something, let's say, somebody say we see a habit in someone else, and usually what we see in someone else we don't like is some part of us that we are inwardly recognizing. When we actively reject or engage with that, we're actually getting into a negative cycle of behavior. We're holding on to the very thing that we're trying to get rid of. So when you say you're not engaging with it, that is absolutely a wonderful thing. You're just allowing it, bless it, acknowledge it. Yes, this is what it was. This is the nature of it, and send it on its way. And that is the right thing to do. You're doing it. And I know it's challenging. I want to acknowledge that, because I have a great deal of admiration for you for what you're going through, and I can sense how heartfelt this process is.
yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome. And thank you for sharing. All right, Susan, are you ready yet?
Yeah.
We're just
Yes.
wondering.
Yeah. It's a really challenging time.
Yes.
I feel very alone here. I'm missing all of you. And
Yes.
sometimes I'm just here alone. And I get when I'm working in my room, I get a lot of intuitive stuff coming in, probably more now than I've had for a long time. But on the other hand, I've got all kinds of things going on around me with this drama where we live.
Mm-hmm.
And there's part of me that brings up all kinds of old stuff, about betrayals. And
Mm-hmm.
I hate seeing people hurt. And I'm trying to see the light side of that, the purpose in all of this, and to stay out of it. But sometimes it's overwhelming, I have to say. Checking in with my guides a lot, and I just feel like I'm straddling the fence a lot of the time, and I don't have anybody to talk to.
Yes. And what came through as you were talking, and this is a good thing to remember, when all of us came to the planet during this time, we knew what was going to be coming up. It could have happened. It can happen in many different ways, depending on how the soul group, the collective, chooses to do things, how it chooses to react. But my mentor, June Distel, talked back in the 1980s that these times were coming. She was very, very detailed about it. And talking about it when it's not happening is another thing than when it's happening. So what's happening with the collective and what you're seeing with the people, this was an opportunity for them to, at their level of spiritual development, and there's a whole spectrum of that in society, to choose the light rather than the darkness, to act, I say react, but act in a positive fashion, an uplifting fashion, rather than a negative reactive fashion. And it's just a mirror unto them. And we just have to know that, what was it, that Buddhist, that Buddhist, there's a proverb, and there's also a story where we don't take on other people's karma. And it's really important that we bless them and we help them. And it can be really, really tug on our heartstrings to see all this happening, and especially because these are the people we care about, our community, and who we love. But you're doing the right thing by checking. Your guides are very, very affirmative. As you were saying, you check in with them a lot, and they affirm that. But they say you're. That's a good. That connection is a very strong one, and it's a good one for you. And it can still be challenging. So I don't have a real fast answer for you, other than to say you're doing the right thing and sending the light, and just know that they chose this, and this is part of their education. This is part of what they've come to become aware of, because that's one of the things these situations do. Challenges in life show us our character, who we are, and it gives them an opportunity to see that. And if they don't choose well this time, they can become aware of it and later on reflect and use that in their life now and in the future. So
Now,
I know
just-
it has to be really challenging for you up there because of the isolation that's happening in Canada. I mean, it's happening everywhere, but it's really happening a lot up there right now.
Well, and the fact that we don't get to come home,
I know.
you know, and that I'm just saying, okay, whatever happens here, I'm just going to just be in the light about it and to feed into that collective. But being human, get steeped in this sometimes, and I find myself sometimes it just sneaks in, and I think, oh my gosh, it sneaked in the back door. And I felt like I was holding the light, and I'm I did Donna Eden stuff this morning about protecting myself and all of that, and every once in a while it just comes in there, and I kind of get slammed, and then I find, okay, let's look at this again, and get up and stand up like the priestess,
Yes.
because when we're talking about women coming in right now, this is really important. That really resonated. I think Aaron was talking about getting rid of patterns, old patterns.
Yes.
And I really recognize that, getting rid of old patterns that are so old, they're not even useful anymore.
That is absolutely true. And yet part of us holds on to them.
Yeah.
And that's part of what opens you up. But then it also makes you aware. It opens you up to maybe some of the discordant energy. You feel it, but then you're aware. And because you are such a channel of light, as all of you are, that you are dissipating the darkness, and I'm being shown, you're just glowing up there, and it's so important. And again, I'm going to go back, and it's probably in the scripture. I think it's in Matthew, but I went back and watched a few times because people have talked about this, and I said, well, how did it affect Jesus? I mean, and he was really, boy, you talk about coming from all sides. They were really going after him, and even with all his light, it would affect him. It would fatigue him physically, and it would say he told the disciples, they hopped in the boat and went to the other side of the lake, and it said Jesus slept, and it's true. It really does affect him. So yeah, and I want to talk about that especially with females, and I wrote this in part of the narrative in this follow-on. In one of the posts, anyway, either the video or written posts. When people choose to come in when a soul chooses to come in as a female, that is so powerful, because as Joseph Campbell said, female is what it's about. It's the bringer of life. It's the vehicle of life. And as in any mythology, and I'm going to say any religious system, where the top god is a goddess, her body is the world. And as I mentioned in the video, from our high self's point of view, this is our world. This is our universe. So that's why we get the energetic viruses. But also, these patterns, when we're clearing it in our body, we're also clearing it for our community and the world, because of that identity that females have. You're so powerful as a female for that reason. Just built right into who you are is this awareness and this connection with the universe and the world. And because of that, I mean, I want to say that it's an extra kind of energetic burden for you, because of, and not in a negative way, in a positive way, because you're bringing in the light, and it's really going out there more so than I would say, generally speaking, for males. Although it happens to everyone, I see it far more with women than males, and it's clearly true with you. And
Thank
I will
you.
affirm with you, you are indeed getting rid of old patterns. And I want to tell you, some of these patterns go back. The word from one of your guides was eons.
Oh, I know.
Whatever that means to you, I'm not even sure, but yeah, and now is the time to get rid of it. And you're doing it for, again, what a blessing. You're doing it for you and your community and the world. So as we all, so thank you.
Thank you. And no, do my guides have anything to say to me right now that relates to this?
Yes, they have two things to say. One, they're very pleased that of your connection, communication, and your staying with it when it's been really, really challenging for you to do so. And they say the light is coming, the dawn is going to be breaking. It's hard to say, month and a half or so. It looks like it's going to start getting better, a lot better, noticeably for you up there, as things are right now. You know, on the path that the soul group is on, at least the part that's up there with you in Canada. So long as they don't go heavily one way or the other, that's what it looks like, and they want you to know that it's coming.
Okay. Thank you. And to all of you for just being there. I'm so glad to be here to see all of you, and thanks for all of that.
Well, thank you for being there. I was been thinking about you so much, and I missed you last time, so I'm glad you're here this time. So
Me too. Thanks.
all right. Who's next? How about Paula? You've been sitting there patiently. Oh, I can't hear you. You unmute. I can probably unmute. Hold on. I can probably do it. I think.
Sorry, I'm already up in the energies. I can't remember how to unmute my own computer. So, oh, it is so good to see everybody.
Yes.
So I've been doing some more really deep work on myself this week, and I had completely forgot about the Aka chords. You know, we get kind of caught up and don't think of it every day. And so when we're done, one of my questions is did I actually get in there and get rid of the Aka chord I was working on? And my other thing would be, I'm just now getting to where I'm having a better connection with my guides on a one-on-one basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm feeling a good connection. So I'd just like to know if that's really true, or if I'm just telling myself that connection's there. But I guess the only question I really have is what I had the big aha moment on a couple of days ago about what this lifetime is about and what I'm moving through. And it could even be, like you said to Susan, eons, if I found the right thing that I'm really ready to release.
Boy, that's a multi-part question. So let me answer it.
Yes, and I didn't even know it was there.
First things first. The Aka chord, I want to talk about this in a minute, because there's Aka chords, and I'm kind of differentiating the same thing. What is it? Was it a difference without a differentiation, or however they say that? Anyway, Aka chords are kind of, if we think about them, energies being in bands. You know, you have the AM band of chords, and then you have the FM band of chords, and then you've got the shortwave, and it's the higher you go up. These energy chords exist on different wavelengths. And the higher, if you eventually get high enough, there aren't any negative ones. But within a certain spectrum, you can have discordant or ones that negatively drain you. So the answer is yes, you cut the Aka chord that you were trying to do. And it was a big one, by the way, and you knew that. There's also an energy accord. It's a slightly higher frequency, different frequency, could say maybe a different characteristic. It's FM instead of AM, however you want to think about it. But all you have to do is just be aware that it's there, and it will show itself. And I think once you're off, you'll see it, and you can appropriately cut it. And it has to do with some stuff that's coming up in layers. I talked about in the baggage series in the articles that similar instance of something, and when it's not dealt with, it begets another one. And then that's not dealt with within that lifetime or the next one. It keeps building it, and it gets threaded kind of vertically. And as we get rid of one, we think, oh, I got rid of it. And we did. But then the next layer comes up that it was based on, it was built on, or however you want. So just once you're aware of that, then what you can start happening is once you become aware of it, sometimes we can get rid of the whole stack at once. It can just be gone. You can get right to the root of it and be gone. And that's what that energy cord has to do with it. The acro cord is the upper layer. The energy cord is, and there's multiple layers of it. Cut it, but you will be able to get rid of it relatively quickly. Just be patient, because it needs to come out in its own time so that it unwinds in a natural manner that allows you to continue your life in a balanced pattern. Okay, so that was your first question. Yes, you are having better communication with your guides, and they're telling me, specifically one guide, your high self is telling me right now that you're learning kind of your own language of the communication with your guides. And everyone does that because we all have unique ways of communicating. It's not the same for any two people. And yes, it is growing, and you're getting better and better at that. Okay.
Thank you.
As for your last question, are you finding things? Yes, we are naturally, what is it? Richard Bach said in Illusions, we are the otters of the universe. We are naturally led to those things. We just naturally magnetize and are attracted to the things that in that moment, perhaps this is the next thing we have to do. But in the big picture for you, you are one of the women who has had a pattern over lifetimes, and you have come to break that pattern of being subordinate. That you are to realize your own person, your own spiritualness, your own connection with God, your God connection, and to live from that. To live from your spirit as growing into your mastership, so to speak. And that is what your whole process is about. So all these different things that you're guided to do are part of the bigger picture of that is what you're doing. So it seems like you've been concerned about that, like maybe you're going the wrong direction here or there. And what I would share with you, and actually it's not me sharing it, it's them telling me to share this with you, is that when you're guided to do something for a time, that's fine. And when you find you say, I'm kind of tired of that, bless that, let it be, and then let yourself be guided to the next thing. And you may come back around again to doing that, but it'll be in a different way. So let yourself naturally move on to the unfoldment that's before you and let go of that which is complete. So I guess my answer is, my long answer to your short question is that you're naturally being guided, and to just flow with that. And that's all part of the big picture of what we just talked about, which is you being working into your self-realization as a as part of the Godhead or child, as a co-creator with God.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I forgot to tell you, thank you for the virus one again. Your YouTubes are always so timely and wonderful. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. But these things come up, and then I will honestly tell you, it's information from you. For example, Pat said something to me a couple weeks ago. Says, you should write about that. And I said, you know what? You're right. And so they end up becoming posts. So all of you, it happens into my life, but sometimes I need to be reminded to write about this stuff. So, because I just think, everyone knows that. And, we all think that, I think, from time to time. We think our experience, everyone has had that experience. And often that's just not the case. So,
yeah.
So you're welcome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Franny, do you have anything to share or anything to ask, or both?
Hi, it's so nice to be here and see everybody. I
Mm-hmm.
can just feel the energy flowing, and it's so wonderful. It's like stepping into a room where there is more light and accelerated energy. It's just, I feel like I'm being bathed in it. I have a couple of questions. One is that I have a big trip coming up at the end of the month, and I'm so excited about it. And I still have a lot to do to kind of get everything ready for it, but it feels important in a lot of ways. And it feels to me like there are several chapters that are closing for me or ending. And that feels really good. It feels like there's stuff that has been sort of just hanging around or whatever. It's like wearing winter clothes when it's time to be into spring or summer clothes. I feel like there's some stuff I need to shed. So I guess I just wanted to ask about that. Like, is my trip and my feeling about it connected with these other cycles or chapters ending?
Yes. And they are probably going to have some, I don't know, some wrapping up stuff that'll happen while you're there. It's not a negative thing. It's just it's kind of like, I don't know, filing paperwork. I don't want to do it, but it's not that hard, but I just got to do it. And you're going to have some of that kind of stuff happen as part of that. I mean,
Can you say any more about that? Now I'm intrigued by that. Like what? Like
no, I can't say anything more. Your high self has said just once. That's the encrypted version of what your high self wanted me to tell you, and it's not a negative thing. It's just the stuff that goes along with closing these things out. It's just kind of like you're done with the mortgage, you paid it off. You know what? Now you got to file it to keep it for however long you keep these things, and then move on. And it's kind of that wrapping up energetically, connection-wise. I will say some energy cords and possibly an ACA cord or two associated with it. But you'll now that you're aware of it, when it happens, you'll know what to do.
Yeah, that sounds good. And then the other question I had is that I had I don't know how to say it, but I was angry with a family member, and I was talking with another friend, and she was like, "Oh, that's easy. You just pray for them and pray for the situation." And I was like, "No, but I'm angry, and they're not keeping their word. They're breaking an agreement, and they told me they would do this, and they're not doing it. And that was my expectation." And they were like, "Oh, I don't have any expectations." So I was really stuck with my lower self in terms of not just being angry, but sort of wanting to stay angry, I suppose. And I have been praying for that person and for the situation to resolve. And so it is. And so it is. I mean, my anger is definitely shifting, and it's the energy shifting, and I'm hoping that's part of things that are closing and wrapping up. I guess we'll see. But I guess I wanted to ask for whatever insights you have about that, about being angry and then releasing that anger, I guess.
Okay, and I think you already know, you're in touch with what it is. It's a buried belief system that you have. You said an expectation, and but it's one of the, we call it emotional baggage, but it has all these different kind of forms, beliefs and expectations, and things are, we have an idea that things are a certain way, and it has to do with that, and interactions with that person in the past and past life as well, and that's part of what it is. And so are you letting go of it? Yes, you're going to let go of a few layers of it. There might be a little bit of residual left, and now that you're aware of it, that awareness in itself is going to help facilitate it being dissipated and dissolved by the light. I mean, you're doing the right thing, so just keep doing it and acknowledging that is what it is. It's a buried belief. You've touched some of it, but there's some of it that hasn't been touched, and it's coming up to be released. And it can fall away if you're able to just let it go. It'll just fall away. It won't get processed through your energy field that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's there. It looks like I don't want to program this thing, because what I'm being shown from your higher guidance in the universe is that most of it's going to go part of this trip, and there's a little residual from another layer, but it's a lesser one, and it's one that you can, how once we start letting go of stuff and we're in that mode of doing that and blessing it, how much easier it is to let it continue. And that's kind of what looks like what you are doing, and what your higher guidance and wishes for you to continue to do.
Thank you for that. And is there anything else that my guides or my higher self could say to me that would keep me moving forward at this time? Anything from the other side that would be helpful to me?
Can you speak up just a little bit? For mine, I want to turn up the volume here a little bit.
Is there anything from my ancestors or my guides or my higher self that would be good for me to know at this time?
Well, yes, and part of it is stay the course. And you just said something that keyed what they want. I guess I think they kind of guided you to say those words. We have a monthly meditation out there. It's releasing ancestral energies, and you have some. And those energies get coded into our DNA, because that's why we choose the bodies and the families we do, because they have the energies and the family histories that are associated with the very challenges that we are to deal with. That we, they're very similar. They resonate with them. And part of what this thing that you're alluding to is about is some of those energies. And that, if you listen to that, it helps you, that meditation, and it's one of our monthly ones some months ago, will help you let go of the energies associated with that. And you're ready for that. You're ready to be freed. You may have to listen to it more than once, like listen to it now, and then a month from now, a month and a half from now, listen to it again. But that's what they want you to do. It's funny you said that. I got from them. That's the words that those words keyed in. Just like, oh, that's it. That's what they want you to do. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny, I didn't say it the first time, so it's only when you asked me to repeat it that I threw the ancestors in there. So that's really, I love how spirit works.
Isn't it awesome?
So thank you. Oh my gosh. And I wanted to just say to Susan, I'm sending you my love and support. And if it's okay, I'll get your email address from Jeff and Deborah, if that's
Oh,
okay.
I'd love that. I'd love that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll share that then. And yes, we've been white light to you. And boy, I'd like to tell you just on this subject of what's happening in the world. What happens in the world is a lagging indicator of what those who are operating in the lower vibrations, they start something and it kind of takes a little while, but the light has already been coming in. And this is part of the acceleration that is associated with the incoming energies, that because they're just pouring in and they're higher and higher frequencies, it's causing this stuff to have to be released both as individuals, but in the collective. And the beauty of it is all of us, as all of you and all of us as light workers, as we bring it in, and I'll use Susan, what you're doing up there as a prime example, they keep sending it in and it just keeps getting dissolved and you just keep doing it. And that's what it takes. And that's what we are to do. And that's part of our service to humanity, is not only following our own spiritual path and helping others individually, but helping the world. And so thank you all for doing that. They reminded me of that. That's why I think I mentioned it in the last video, because they wanted it to talk about that. Is there anything else from anyone?
I have a question.
Sure.
Which I did not mention before, and this is on a personal level. So about the past week and a half, other times too, but now it's gotten stronger. I am, I just get all kinds of energetic, I don't want to use the word heaviness. It's strong energy that I don't like the feeling of, and it's in my solar plexus. And sometimes it's all jumping around, and sometimes it's just pushing on me so hard. And I've tried a few things, but maybe not enough of any one thing. I'm just wondering what you see and what my guides would like me to do with and about that energy. It's I don't know, it's probably from all the collective and everything going on.
That's part of it. Part of it's yours.
And some of it's mine.
And here's what's interesting about it, because we're all part of it, the things that we're letting go of, especially as it's coming up, and I'm seeing it coming up and I'm being shown this, your first chakra, and then it's moving up your back and then coming out into the solar plexus a bit. And the vibrations that has to do with also attracts some of the similar stuff from the collective that also needs to be dissipated, because you have the capacity to do it. And you're just to keep doing this, because as you do it more, how do I say it from your high self? She's smiling. Basically, you're getting better at it. I mean, it's really true. I'm not trying to be humorous or anything, but it's true. You're becoming. It's becoming. The more you do it, the better you are at it. Not only for yourself, but for others.
So it's not so much like cutting ACA cords and that sort of thing. It's a little bit of a different.
Yes, it's just the
Okay.
stuff coming up, and as light's coming in, it's being because you are. It looks like you're deliberately trying to. Occasionally, you catch yourself holding on to it and engaging with it. Then you become aware of it, and then when you do, you bless it and send it on its way. And then some of the collective stuff comes in that you're ready to handle, and the universe knows what we can handle. Comes with it. There can be ACA cords that happen with it and energy cords that happen with that because of as they come up, they can be associated with people that are in our current life. But just know it's old stuff, and it's you know how it is. All of a sudden we become very aware of something in someone else or in some situation, and we think, "Oh my goodness, look at this!" And then if we look in the mirror, we realize that has to do with the stuff that we are releasing ourselves. We're seeing it out there or in someone else, but whatever it is, it's what we're doing ourselves.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome. Thank
so
you.
much. I have something actually really quick and cool to share with you guys, and it's about a particular, I don't know if they're really gemstones, but it's called Shungite. And I learned this recently because through a friend anyway, and about bees. So these people that my friend knows, they put a piece of Shungite, maybe because they had read about this, because she didn't tell me that, she didn't know that factor. They put it underneath their beehive. And the bees, I had just read recently, are one of our creatures that are having a very hard time with all the EMF and the 5G and all that. So these bees picked it up. I don't know that they saw them pick it up. Somehow they picked up the piece of Shungite, and I suppose they mudded it or concreted it to their hive. And when they would go to come back into the hive, they would go under the Shungite and shake off. So I think that is for all of us to know, if not for ourselves, we will meet people along the way who are so sensitive to the EMFs that they need a little help, and they can just pick up some raw Shungite even. It's pretty cheap, or Heather has some Shungite that's polished.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I was so fascinated by that, and this is a good opportunity here to share with 2, 4, 6, 8 people.
Yes.
Yes, so
Thank you.
enjoy your Shungite.
Lisa, do you have anything more? Anything?
Well, I could add to the Shungite for, it's actually a pretty powerful protection stone.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like black tourmaline.
Yes.
So it's definitely it's really grounding and reflects a lot of the heavier, denser energies. So, yeah, that. The other thing, what I've been doing is like when I start to feel kind of energies coming up within me, whether it's emotion or there's pressure in my body or pain or discomfort, I just sit or I just stop and I just start taking lots of deep breaths and I just breathe. And then I just keep doing that until it passes through me. So I'm not going into it at all. I'm not really looking at it or trying to process it, because once you go into your mind about it, you're going to just keep swishing it around and it's just going to stay there. So I just start breathing very deeply and it just passes through me.
Yeah.
So.
And I just heard the word prana too, which has to do with it as well. Helps you on that. Yep. The energy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank
I think
you.
that's just one of the easiest tools that really you can teach anybody, if you're feeling anxious or whatever it is, just stop, pause, and just start taking some deep breaths. It also brings you back into your body as well, Because usually when we're getting triggered or stuff is coming up, we start to actually go out of our body. We start kind of checking out the spirit part of us. So then it's harder to process or, to really release it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up breathing. It's such a powerful technique physiologically. It does wonderful things. So yes, that in itself, plus the bringing in the prana and letting out the the old stuff, it's incredibly powerful. So thank you.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
welcome.
I want to thank her for that too, because that is so simple to do and that is quick. And I am not a person who used to go out of my body a whole lot, but since this stuff started getting stronger and stronger, I can relate to that, and I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's one of those things that it's one of the basic things we kind of all learn, but then it's kind of like cutting those aca cords. Like, oops, that's right. Let's cut the aca cord. Yes.
Yeah, and Lisa makes some great jewelry for that too. So I think I'm going to start wearing that on a more regular basis instead of just when I go out.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa. Appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else? Oh, Paula, one more?
A weird one. So all of a sudden, I cannot drink enough Tang. Is it because I'm just requiring that much vitamin C? I haven't drank Tang in years, and now it's like all I think about is a cup of Tang.
Yes, it's vitamin C, and it looks like it's orange, isn't it? Yeah, because they got different flavors of Tang, if I recall. And yes, that's a good. You probably could just eat oranges too. Of course, they're more expensive.
Well, yeah, but yeah. So is it just vitamin C needing more vitamin C? Is that what the basic thing that's going on?
Yes, but it seems like there's something else in it, and it has to do with, believe it or not, it has to do with the color orange as well, which is very powerful.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Ooh, that really sent me one of those little goosies.
Yeah, that's a very true one. One of the things they used to do years ago, one of the exercises they would have people bring in, imagine themselves being filled with orange light or orange juice, and then it would absorb whatever all the stuff was, and then they would let it out through their feet into the earth. And if you're called to do that, you may want to think about doing that. And that exercise, I'm sure, is out on the internet, and I'm sure someone has a guide to find which method would work best for you.
Hey, and guess what,
That's
guys?
great.
Our next sound shower is going to be the Orange Chakra.
It is.
Right.
That's right. The upcoming sound shower is going to be the Sacral Chakra. She's doing the series. And I encourage you, if you can be there and wear orange. All right.
I think it's on the 12th, isn't it? Is that right, March 12th?
You're going to make me look, aren't you?
No, that's right. I was pretty sure because I looked at my schedule and I was thinking that was a Saturday I was open.
You know what? I have it on my calendar here. I'm going to look. And if I get to the correct month, that would be very helpful. Sound shower, the 12th, 2 to 4 p.m. at the Creative Arts Center. I'm going to be there. All right, hold on. I got to find my microphone so I don't roll over it with the chair. All right. Is there anything else? Anyone have anything else to share? I don't think I've got anything more at this point.
I have one thing, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, when I've been working, I get this crystal dome that comes over the whole room. And I'm wondering what that's about.
You tell me. I think you know, but I can tell you in a moment.
It's reflective. That's what I get. I mean, it's just shining.
It is a crystalline. It looks to me like it's a crystalline looking thing. Dome.
Yes.
What it is it's the Christ energies. It's the Christ body energies.
Oh, okay.
From who that's coming in from. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
for you and protection. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for bringing that up, because our higher guidance, when we see these odd things happen, I'm seeing this a lot now too. I guess I do have a closing comment, is that I'm seeing with certain people's guides, My friend called me who practically never calls me and asked me some questions, my friend Dale. And we were talking about some of the odd things that were happening, and it was his higher guidance taking care of him. And I'd be very much unsurprised if that's happening to all of you. And your dome is just one example of it. And the light just pouring in. I'm really conscious of the light pouring in for you, Susan. Oh my gosh. I mean, everyone, but you are really a funnel of it because of where you are and what's happening and how important it is right now in the area that you're in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Can you
Yes.
hear me okay? I'm on star 6. Okay. One thing that you've heard Matt Kahn before,
Mm-hmm.
and I know he mentions that like the clearing and releasing, it's like if we keep focusing on that, we're going to get more and more and more and just continually be in that process. And that it's almost like we've got to step it up and just go to the next level of focusing on what's next, of the joy, of the expansion, of the bliss, of the peace, because it does seem like if we keep, you know what I mean, if we keep pointing on cleaning and cleaning, there's just going to be more. It's like walking on the beach out here. If I look for glass to pick up, I'll keep finding it. But if I'm focusing on something else, then that's what I'm going to experience more of.
Yeah, and what he's talking about there is that we are to be focused on the light. And you're right, go to the next level, go to the next level. As things come up, you know, don't get caught into them in a negative cycle. That's the cleaning thing, you know, then we just get focused on, you know, whatever we focus on, that's what we bring more of into our life. So we just, as it comes up, if it becomes something that we are attentive to, or part of our low self holds on to it, acknowledge it, bless it, send it on its way. I guess my thought is, I don't know how to vocalize it other than to say, acknowledge that, you know, we know that there is baggage, there is discordant energies, emotional baggage, however we think of it, old beliefs being released, you know, bless them, acknowledge them on their way out, but that isn't what we are to focus on. We are to focus on the light. I agree with you. That's absolutely should be our focus. Be centered in the light. And then as things come up, bless them on their way out.
Yeah, it seems like at least what I'm feeling is like there's a lot more heart expansion right now. Like it's opening, it's happening. We're past the old part. We're past the thick, heavy stuff.
And I'm seeing that so much in all the sessions we do. The expansion, the heart, and then the bandwidth for which the chakras can handle. In other words, the higher spectrum stuff, they're opening up and expanding in such a way they can handle the higher energies that increasingly are coming in, the higher frequencies, and we keep anchoring higher and higher and higher. And as that happens, those higher energies are coming in. And so, yeah, there's an enormous expansion, not only in the heart, but the crown chakra. I'm seeing it a lot too. I mean, all the chakras, but I'm noticing it a lot in the crown chakra and in the heart chakra, especially.
Yeah. Yeah, you can really feel. I mean, physically, you can feel it.
Yes.
It's like your ribs are getting pulled apart, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing, and just, you know, I agree that to focus on the light. And I guess I don't have much else to say other than we have the whole experience here of being on Earth. There's the whole spectrum of experience. We are to be focused on the light, but also acknowledge the other things that come about, and not get caught into that negative cycle attachment, which an example of that is being overly obsessed with constantly clearing things, because then we're focusing on the discordant stuff, and then we bring more of that into our life. Yeah, I agree. All right. Does anyone else have any last thoughts before we go?
Are you going to announce your radio?
Oh, you know what? I have been announcing it all the time. Yes, starting this month, Saturday, March 19th, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Mountain time, On the News for the Soul radio network, we have a program, and we're calling it Awakening Divine Connections radio program, and it's worldwide. It has some terrestrial radio stations, but it's mainly internet radio, and we're going to be sending out another link for it. They just finished up our profile page, and our there's 11 things about us tab. You go to the profile page, there's the 11 things, and then we have, of course, the shameless self-promotion page on there as well, where we talk about the things that we do. And the first radio program, the founder, her name is Nicole Whitney, is going to be interviewing us. So we encourage you. I'd love for you to join and listen. We know what some of the questions are, but she's made it clear that she's going to have questions for us that we don't know what they are. So we'll find out, I guess, come on that radio interview. And it will be via the telephone. And so that one's going to be pretty much that. And then in the future, what we're going to be doing is it's going to be a call-in show. We'll take calls from anywhere in the world. Anyone that calls in, she handles the switchboard, so we don't control that. We're also going to try to do live music streaming. They're not really set up for, because they have to handle all kinds of different types of input, so it's kind of the least common denominator. But we've got the our PreSonus software, and if it's possible, we're going to try to do some streaming things with Deborah's crystal harp, hand pan, the rain stick, the crystal pyramid, and so on and so forth, the flutes. If that doesn't have real good high fidelity live, what we'll do is pre-record it, give it to Nicole, and then when it comes to the appropriate point in the radio program, we will play it. We're also planning on doing some interviews with other spiritual people in groups. That might be some of you bring onto the program for interview and talk about what they do or what you do. And we're going to talk about a variety of topics. We don't exactly know all the different things. We're going to look for the input from you, obviously our group here, our special spiritual family right here, all of us on the screen, as well as anyone writing in for ideas of what to do. So please do join us. We hope you have time to do it. And again, it's 10 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Mountain. You have to look in your own time zone for like Hawaii on March 19th. And then it'll be every third Saturday thereafter. Every third Saturday of every month thereafter. Same time. And thank you for reminding me. I was supposed to shamelessly self-promote, but I didn't do it.
I nudged you.
So, all right. Well, I guess at this point, just to everyone, just thank you. What a blessing being together as our spiritual family here. I know it's virtual, but it makes it possible for us to do it when we otherwise would not. And just blessings, light, and love to all of you. Just keep bringing in the light for yourselves, for your family, your friends, and for the world, because the world desperately needs it. And until next time.
Yahoo! Love you guys. Love
Love you guys.
Guys,
Love
thank
you
you.
all.
Bye.